Hello and welcome to the next in the series of our Meet the Employer webinars, bringing you exclusive access to inside information from a wide range of employers. This series is run in partnership with Graduate Recruitment Bureau, the UK's leading recruitment service for entry-level careers. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Katie Hildyard, your host for the series, and I'm delighted to be joined by two members of the resourcing team at Co-op, a company that I expect many of you have heard of and interacted with at some point in your lives. Danny Matthews, who's Apprenticeship and Community Resourcing Lead, and Melissa Evans, Resourcing Partner. Hello to you both and thank you very much for joining us today. Coming up, Melissa will be sharing her top takeaway tips to help you get ahead of the curve, so please make sure you stay tuned for those. And also, if you have a question you'd like us to answer, pop it in the chat box and we'll do our best to answer it. Before we get started, I've got a quick bit of housekeeping. The webinar will last no longer than 25 minutes, and if you experience any technical difficulties, don't worry, because a copy of the recording will be made available on the Co-op profile in your online platform. This slide gives you an example of some of the employers that we've had involved in the series so far, and we've got a growing number confirmed over the next few weeks and months. All the details for those can be found in your online career platform. Now, I've been fortunate enough to have a really good chat with Danny and Melissa, and it certainly sounds like the Co-op is a really super place to start your career. Starting with you, Melissa, when we first talked, I was really amazed at the diversity of the roles available within Co-op. And I wondered if you could share this with the students we have on the webinar today, as well as telling us everything we need to know about the Co-op.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned before, Kate, that a lot of people probably know us and have interacted with us before. I think people usually know us most for our food business and our funeral care business, but we've actually also got a legal services business, and we've got an insurance business and a new and growing health business as well. So with that just brings like a huge breadth of different roles that you can apply to and that you can come and join at the Co-op. So whether you want to be an accountant, a solicitor, whether you want to work in HR, be a marketing manager, a software developer, there's a whole host of different roles that we recruit for. And what I really love as well is that we encourage people to move around amongst the businesses, so you can join in one job but have a huge and varied career at the Co-op, and really diversify like what that career and what your next steps look like.
Great, and I think certainly from a student's perspective, starting out in their careers, the opportunity for them to start in one area, assess their strengths, find out what they like, don't like, and move into other areas is so valuable. You know, it's great that you offer such a diverse range of opportunities within a single business. Danny, coming to you next. I understand the Co-op has been doing some really important work supporting communities throughout the pandemic. It'd be so good to know what exactly you've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's fair to say that it's been a very busy time for everybody, let alone food and grocery retailers. And actually, and quite interestingly, it's times like this where you really see the cooperative movement come into its own, particularly when it's all about working together and pulling together as a community to support one another. And that's kind of underpinning a lot of the work that we've been doing during the pandemic. I suppose just to give a few examples of those. So over the past, how long has it now been? About 6-7 months. We have donated up to £15 million worth of support and aid to those who need it most. And that has come in the form of lots of different things. So 6,000 free school meal vouchers that we gave and funded for our academy students, because we knew that there'd be a population of students who, you know, if they weren't at school, that there's a risk that they wouldn't eat. And we've provided vouchers to ensure that they don't go hungry, and collaborated with Marcus Rashford, Manchester United footballer, in his plight to make sure that all young people have got access and fair access to food as well. We've given £4.5 million to local causes to support smaller local community-based organisations and charities. And probably quite interestingly, not a lot of people will have seen this in the news, but we've actually spent nearly £55 million on PPE and protective equipment to protect our customers and, importantly, our colleagues from contracting the virus as they're working in pretty tough conditions, I think would be fair to say. But it's been incredible to see that, that kind of community spirit that we have very much, I would say, been at the heart of. And it's times like this where actually the values of an organisation really come through, and it's made me really proud to work for the organisation that I work for.
That's great. And I think having that kind of insight just about how much effort and resource and money has gone into the support that you're offering in all different places and different ways, I think is fascinating. And you're right. I mean, I certainly wasn't aware of how much the company was spending in that particular area, and I imagine a lot of students on the webinar today won't be aware. So it's great, and it leads on actually really nicely to the next question I have, which is around company culture. And I think obviously such an important thing for a prospective employee to be thinking about. Melissa, are you able to describe the Co-op's culture in 3 words?
Yeah, so I guess the first word that I would go with would be cooperative. So it seems obvious in the clues in the title, but we genuinely are an organisation that's about people. So whether that's the communities that we serve, our colleagues, our customers, our members, everything in the organisation is about giving back to communities. That's deeply important to us, and that that comes through in everything that we do and everything that we're about. Danny shared loads of great stuff there about what we've done through this pandemic, which is testament to the company that we are. But that stuff that's in our DNA, we look after the communities that we serve day in, day out as well. The second word that I would use would probably be fairness. We're an organisation that's steeped in history. Since we were set up, we've always been about campaigning for the things that matter and campaigning for a fairer world. So that's hugely important to us. But what I love about the Co-op is it's never just about being fair within our own organisation and looking internally at that fairness. We campaign for the things that matter within society as well. So for an example of that is we've just launched our manifesto, which is our commitment to racial equality and inclusion. And part of that, we're not just talking about what we're going to do as a cooperative internally, but we're talking about what we're going to campaign for in society as well, and how we bring others along with us. And then the third word I would probably say would be innovation. So we constantly innovate and adapt as a Co-op. We wouldn't still exist today if we hadn't taken the opportunity to do that. And it's been particularly impressive how we've done that in recent years. And while we've shown that we've really engaged with our communities through the pandemic, and we've done the work that matters, we've also come through that with really, really strong financial performance. And we've got 2 million more customers shopping with us now than we did before. And we've only been able to do that because we've innovated and we've stayed relevant as a business. So the position we're in today, we're really healthy. We're a really vibrant Co-op.
That's great, and I think that insight and really sort of pinpointing what it is about your culture and describing it, I think could be so valuable for the students on the webinar, just to get a sense of actually whether it resonates with them. And I mean, and based on what you're saying, I think it's likely it would for many, but so valuable, especially at the point where they're looking at different options and different companies. So really useful, thank you. Moving on to skills and behaviours, I'd be really interested, Danny, to understand, sort of we're looking at 2021 and beyond, what skills and behaviours you think are essential for a successful career at Co-op?
Yeah, I think there's probably quite a lot you can focus on. But I suppose keeping it quite simple and without going into every single job or every single role, I think for me it's probably important to be mindful of the current circumstances around the number of individuals and unemployed, and therefore the first thing I would probably call out would be about staying positive. and being resilient. And that is not just in when you're searching for jobs, but actually within any challenge, any opportunities that you come up against or are offered. It's about staying positive to do your best and achieve whatever the outcome you want to achieve might be. And I think that for me is really key, because also I think staying positive will help you in growing yourself and being able to accept criticism and be able to take on feedback and look at the constructive side of that. I think is really important. So I think as the first point of call, I would probably say staying positive, and underneath that is definitely being resilient and being committed as well to achieving whatever you set out to achieve, but dealing with those setbacks in the right way. I think if I was to pick another kind of skill, but also I think taps into the behavioural piece as well, is cooperation. And Melissa rightly calls out, as an organisation, that's a key part of our culture, and actually cooperative skills are a really important part of being successful here in the co-op. It's not just about getting things done. Absolutely, it is about achieving an end result, but it's also about how you get there. And that cooperative piece and cooperation is really important, particularly in an organisation the size of ours, to make sure that you're engaging with the right people, you're bringing in a diverse group of colleagues to contribute towards the final idea or solution or whatever that might be. And you can't do that unless you cooperate with each other. You understand, you listen, and you show that actually you're willing to take on other people's thoughts and feedback. And actually, whether you're in a co-op or in another organisation, I think working as part of a team and working well as part of a team is a really important skill to have, be that at undergraduate level, be that at graduate level, or actually be that if you're a CEO in an organisation, because you can't do everything by yourself as such. And if I was to single out a kind of a final skill, behaviour, probably a bit of both, is really to develop that growth mindset. So to be really kind of positive, be really inquisitive, and be really curious, to develop your knowledge and skills. Acknowledge that not everybody will ever know everything, and want to push yourself further and develop, because I think that taps into, again, Melissa's point around innovation. The world is changing. The world has changed in the past 6 months beyond probably what any of us would have ever expected, and with that, there are problems that are created, but actually there are opportunities that are created there as well. And I think it's about having that growth mindset to make sure that you are open, you're interested, you're curious, you're asking questions, to help you get to that point where you can innovate, you can create and come up with solutions that maybe no one else has thought about, and help you get around a problem or actually capitalize on an opportunity. And particularly if we think about the future world of work beyond coronavirus and how that's thrown everything up in the air and changed how we work, I think it's a really great opportunity for graduates, particularly, to really shape what that future looks like, not just for everyone else, but particularly for them and their work, world of work as well. So those are my three things: staying positive, cooperation and cooperative skills, and having a growth mindset to enable yourself to innovate, be creative, and get the best out of every situation.
Fantastic, and really, really valuable stuff as well. And like you were saying, these kind of skills and behaviours are vital at all levels and applicable to many people at all stages of their career as well. So these kind of things are going to remain important, and particularly at a time where we're having to adapt and get used to new ways of working and think of new ideas, like you say, more vital than ever. So yeah, great, thank you. And thank you very much, by the way, to the students who have submitted questions via the chat box. What we're now going to do is just dedicate a little bit of time to answering a couple of those questions. So one that I've got here, what opportunities do you offer students and graduates? Danny, perhaps you'd like to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I take, so I suppose students, we do run an undergraduate placement program within our commercial function. Every year we take on around about kind of 10 to 20 individuals as such in our kind of food teams, buying teams, etc., which is all about growing great talent in our retail food industry. The graduate space, usually organisations have big graduate programs. We're a little bit different. We offer graduate roles, so lots of opportunities across our business, not just in our head office in Manchester, but across the whole of the organisation to join our business as a graduate. And be that a data analyst in support centre, be that a manager in one of our stores. There's plenty of opportunities, but we don't offer a formalised graduate programme. So if you're looking for a 2-year fixed term contract with a rotational offer, we don't have that. But we can offer you is a structured and as Melissa rightly called out, a very diverse career, which will definitely be embedded in the roots of retail and everything else that comes with that. So lots of opportunity across our business, and some great potential careers as well across lots of different functions and industries.
Super, thank you. Another question I've got here, as a result of COVID-19, what changes, if any, have you made to your recruitment process, and do you have any tips that could help us with applying? Melissa, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, no, definitely happy to. I'd say the biggest change that we made was adapting our interview process to work for a virtual world. So we did, your traditional face-to-face in-person interviews, and obviously with social distancing coming into place, that just absolutely wasn't the right thing to do going forward. So we already had a platform that allowed us to do video interviews, because we do that as part of our screening process with like pre-recorded on-demand video. So quite quickly we were able to mobilise a live video interview platform. I guess the top tips that I would give with that are to relax, like a video interview. It's really not wholly different from an in-person interview. You get to be in your own environment, in your own home, and there's definitely advantages with that in terms of feeling comfortable and relaxed in the interview. I would just say make sure that you really test your technology. Make sure you're in a place where you've got a good connection. You test it beforehand as much as you can. I guess you wouldn't just go to an interview in a physical environment without thinking before about how you get there. So I'd take a similar approach with like planning your technology and your environment, your space around you, making sure you're free from distractions so you can perform your best. I think another thing that can be really hard to do on video that we've all learned is to kind of like still engage and maintain eye contact. There is a different way of doing that when you're on a virtual platform. So while you can't have eye contact, make sure that you stay focused, you're showing that you stay engaged by smiling and nodding, using hand gestures, so you're still building that rapport with your interviewers. And I would just say as well, like just be yourself, relax. It's likely everyone's in the same boat with the video interviews, so don't be too hard on yourself. Technology fails us all. We all forget to go off mute. We've learned that. We have dodgy internet connections. People might walk in on the background that wasn't expecting. Like, employers will understand that. So be kind to yourself as well if things don't work out, because we're all dealing with those technical challenges at the moment.
Melissa, I think that's so valuable, that information, especially at this particular time, like you say, and obviously it's to do with the change in that you've had to make to your recruitment processes. But I'm certainly aware that that's something that's going on widely at the moment, and students are really having to kind of come to terms and get used to the idea of video interviewing. So those tips are invaluable. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so thank you for your questions. Last but not by no means least, Melissa, I'd like to actually stick with you. And I mean, if students forget everything we've said on this webinar today, and I really hope they don't, what 3 things would you like to make sure they go away with?
So I think Danny made a really important point before about staying positive. The world has changed, and the job market has changed with it, but please do stay positive in your career search. There's still loads of good opportunities out there. And just really focus on, you know, what you can bring to your application. You'll have some fantastic skills that you've developed, some great experience to share. I'm sure we've all built our resilience over the last few months as well that we can talk about, but just do stay positive and make sure you're confident in what you can bring, and you showcase that throughout every step of the recruitment process. I think there's something as well about just thinking about the company that you want to apply for. Like, we're here to give you an insight today into what it's like to work for the Co-op, you know, whether we're the right organisation for you or not. I would just really encourage anyone to think about what are the values that a company represents, and does that align with what you're looking for, because you'll get so much job satisfaction out of choosing an employer that's right for you. And you know, with social media now, there's you know, an employer's got a really good shop window into not just what they do as an organisation, but who they're about. So do that research beforehand and really think about, you know, what are they saying on their social platforms, what are the issues that they stand for, and are they right for you? And then the last one I would just say, I guess, is around that preparation piece. Like any interview that you're going into, whether it's a telephone interview, you know, a pre-recorded video interview or face-to-face, always just prepare as best as you can in terms of technology, as I called out before, and just in terms of really thinking about those skills and experience. And, you know, Danny highlighted 3 great ones earlier, and really think about how you can prepare and give your best to the interview, but at the same time just be kind to yourself as well, you know, like be patient and kind to yourself through that process.
Brilliant. So in terms, just as a quick recap, we've got remaining positive and ensuring that you're getting across the things that you've achieved throughout your application process. Thinking about the companies you're applying for and ensuring there's an alignment between your own values and the values of the organisation in order to stand the best chance of a fulfilling career. And preparation, obviously a very important one. Making sure that you're fully prepared will always lead to the best possible outcomes. Super. Well, look, thank you both very much for joining us today. It's been absolutely fascinating to get insight from the Co-op, and particularly with it being a company that so many people are aware of. I think we've covered lots today that you wouldn't be aware of unless you're actually in the business. So really, really useful. We certainly hope that all the students on this webinar found this session insightful. As I mentioned before, this webinar is part of our Meet the Employer webinar series. To find out about all those that we have taking place, all you need to do is go into the newsroom on this careers site, click the webinar tag, and there you will see the details of all the webinars that have taken place, as well as those that we have coming up. As ever, we'd love your feedback. So after the end of this webinar, a very short feedback form will appear. So please do share your thoughts with us, and we'll certainly take them into account moving forward. All that's left to say is thank you again for joining us today, and I hope you can join us on a future webinar.